Hi, it's Joel Howley here from Connelly Skis, and this is the GTR. This thing has been 3 years in the making, so I am absolutely pumped to finally release this ski. What I'm going to do now is just run through the tech specs of this ski. However, before I get started, I just want to outline Connelly's fundamental beliefs with the direction that the future of high-end ski design is going to head. Here at Connelly, we really believe that the skis of the future will ride deep in the water and have very little drag. Now, typically, you can't have a ski that rides deep in the water and has little drag. However, for quite a few years now, we've been taking steps towards creating a ski that truly does have the best of both worlds. There's a lot of skis in the industry that are riding very high in the water and sliding their way around the course like a rally car. Here at Connelly, we try to make our skis ride deep in the water, however, reduce so much drag that they have basically the same drag characteristics as a ski that's riding high in the water, and therefore getting the best of both worlds. Initially, one of the very first things we did in order to try and accomplish that was the V steps underneath the hull. These aerate the water, so the water sheets down the top of the ski, hits these steps, gets disturbed, and then from there back, the ski is actually traveling across a sheet of aerated water, and that reduces a huge amount of drag, despite the fact that the ski is riding very deep in the water. However, on the GTR, what we've done happens at the tail. Now, the sidewall on this ski is reduced at the tail, just like the GT. However, on the GTR, now we worked a lot on what angle to have this, but on the GTR, we've got a 46-degree angle off the edge of this reduced sidewall. And what that does is, similar to the GT, when you're coming into the turn and you're starting to engage the tip, right at the moment where you want a ski that's deep in the water. Through the turns, everybody wants their ski to be nice and deep in the water. So what happens is you come into the turn, you roll the ski on edge, there's a lack of sidewall there that would be there on a traditional ski, and the ski starts to drop down into the turn. However, the thing that's changed now is this 46-degree edge. So what happens is when you get to peak lean relative to the water, that edge begins to come in contact with the water, and what that does is actually create lift. So therefore, what you get is a ski that comes into the turn, drops down on the approach, but then once you reach the apex and you're leant over the maximum angle relative to the water that your body's going to get on, and you start to rotate, once that surface connects, you then get lift. It's an amazing feeling. The ski really does drop down into the turn, and then just past the turn, at the moment when you are about to get a whole heap of load from the boat, the ski rises up out of the water a little bit, and when you connect with the handle, there's a lot less load than what you would expect, and you can shoot across the wakes as if you've got a ski that's riding high in the water. And that's kind of what I'm getting at with where we're heading in the future. We want the best of both worlds from this ski. Now I'm going to discuss the bevel profile. Here at Connelly, because our ski rides so deep in the water, we don't actually need the skier to be capable of riding as far forward or as far back as what is required from a ski that's high in the water. And the reason that is because the waterline is already deeper, meaning that when you go forward, you don't have to go forward as far in order for the water to begin braking on the curved part of the ski, which is what will bite and create the rotation. And in the middle here, we have a transition period that is very short, meaning that the ski very much has its own center point where it wants to ride. If you go back, the continuous round will put you here, and if you go forward, the sharp bevels will put you here. It wants to ride on that center zone where the transition is, and that gives you a very, very stable ski. But like I said, because it's riding so deep, you move forward and the water is still braking very high on the tip and giving you that rotation. Now we have the rocker profile. What we've got here is a very long and flat spot underfoot, okay? When a ski rides deep, you can have a bigger flat spot. Again, because the water is already breaking close to the tip and you don't require the skier to rock forward and back as much. So not only does the transition zone give you a very distinct center point to the ski, that center point then has a very long flat spot for you to ride on. Again, increasing the stability of this ski and still allowing you to get the tip in the water due to the fact that the ski is already riding quite deep in the water. When you look up close at this ski, what you'll notice is a very high gloss finish in front of the first V and a micro textured, slightly rough finish behind the first V. What that does, contrary to what you might think, is allow the tip of the ski to grip a little more than the tail of the ski. A glossy finish will actually stick to the water a little more than a slightly textured finish. And in the turn, having the tip stick more than the tail is very important to the characteristics of a ski. In comparison to other skis on the market, the ski has quite a stiff flex pattern, which is definitely an added advantage of having a ski that rides deep in the water. When a ski rides high in the water, you need a soft flex pattern so that you get the bend into the ski to help it rotate through the turn. But when a ski is already deep in the water, you don't need that because it's very easy to get the tip of the ski in the water when it's already down in the water. And as a result, on this Connelly, we can run a very stiff flex pattern. So when you rotate through the turn, that stiff flex pattern shoots you off the back of the ball very fast. However, in saying that, we actually run quite a soft torsional flex pattern. And that's very, very important when crossing the wakes to help the ski negotiate through opposed to crash across the wakes. The wake crossings on this ski are amazing, especially for such a stiff ski. Inside the ski, we run an ultra low density CNC cut PVC core with incredibly tight tolerances. There's almost no air gap between the core itself and the carbon that surrounds it. Now with the carbon, we run incredibly high quality carbon. We actually also run tracer mounts of fiberglass throughout this ski. And what that does is significantly improve the dampening characteristics of this ski, especially in rough water. Although it works inversely to how it does on the tail, the reduced sidewall height at the tip actually keeps the tip of the ski in the water. Especially on an onside turn where you've got a lot of pressure on your back foot, once the water gets to here, it's lacking that sidewall that a traditional ski would have. And what that does is decrease lift and keep the tip down into the water. However, what we've done here is put another edge after that reduced sidewall, meaning that if you were to push it in further than what it should be, the water will start to connect with that edge which comes up from the sidewall, and that'll begin to give a little lift, stopping you from overturning the ski. Prior to the GT coming out, I started collecting fin settings. I have an Excel spreadsheet on my computer where I plug in everybody's fin settings on a graph, and the result of that has been a huge amount of data that we can correlate things from. The fin settings for the GT are somewhat similar to the GT, although slightly reworked. But the important thing is that we have 3 different fin setting options. We have an option which is up to 28 off or 14 meters. And then once you're skiing beyond 14 meters, we actually have 2 options. We have a back deep and short option, which is what I ride, and then we have a forward, shallow, and long option. And what that does is really change the characteristics of the ski. The back deep and short option is going to give you a slightly tip high ride. It's still going to bite, it's just going to ride a little more like this. And then if you were to run the forward, shallow, and long option, you're going to get a little tip down with a little more tail wash. Both those options are great, so if you are skiing above 28 off, try both of them. That's my only recommendation. A lot of people head in one of those 2 directions, especially elite level skiers. You'll often notice that as well as increasing surface area, we're either moving back deep and short or forward, shallow, and long. Now there's some things I can't talk about in this video because We've got to keep a few things a secret. However, what I do want to convey just as a closing note is that when you do get a chance to ride this ski, which I really hope you do, judge it on how it performs when things get difficult. Don't judge it on how you run your first pass or your second pass. Push it to its limit, push yourself to its limit. And I feel like when you're in that zone where everything's not quite going right, you'll be very impressed with what this ski does for you.